So this week is a full moon week, which is very much a turning point week. The full moon is always a turning point. But this week, the energies are even more interesting for the simple reason that this full moon is taking place in the sign of Aries, okay? And as you almost certainly know, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. Sorry, I'm just quickly trying to find the page in my Moonology diary. Yeah, so it's taking place on October 6 or 7, depending where you are in the world, the full moon in Aries. Now, you may or may not know that the full moon is the time to release, let go, and move on. And we have literally just ended one cycle. So this full moon, I would strongly suggest that you try to forget about whatever has been upsetting you for the last, say, 12 months or 2 years or 3 years or whatever, and think, I'm in a new cycle. Let me embrace the new. It's very much a time to think twice before you get into any conflicts with anyone, because the energies are going to be quite high. The other thing that's going on this week, which is so interesting, is that Venus, the planet of love and abundance, is making two alignments, one with the lucky planet Jupiter and one with the difficult planet Saturn. So it suggests that when it comes to relationships, there's going to be a lot of energy because we've got the full moon. It's in the first sign of the zodiac, which is Aries, which is ruled by Mars, the god of war. So it can be really intense and even a bit angry. But then we've got the feminine planet Venus, the planet of the goddess, connecting with Jupiter, which expands the energy, and Saturn, which actually can also be very grounding. So it can be a time to kind of feel all your feelings, recognize them for what they are, and then tune into your heart, which is very Venus. It's love, it's the divine feminine, it's the goddess. Let those feelings expand and then ground them. And as it happens, my guest this week is perfect for this because she is called Ana Otero. She's about to become a fellow Hay House author. At the moment, she's a self-published author. And she is strongly connected to the divine feminine energy of Mary Magdalene, who is probably not who you think. So I'm going to now throw to the interview that I did with Ana just a few minutes ago. We just wrapped it up, and it's very much about understanding the amazing divine feminine energy of Mary Magdalene, who, as I said, is probably not who you thought she was. And this full moon week with Venus harmonizing with Jupiter and then connecting with Saturn is the ideal time for this work. I really hope it resonates with you. It really resonates with me. And I'll just tell you as well, if you love chanting, Ana does a little bit of chanting for us, but not in Sanskrit. She does it in the language that Jesus, who she calls Yeshua, that Jesus used, which was Aramaic. So I hope you enjoy this week's episode. I want to start today's podcast with a little story. About a month ago, I was searching high and low for some chants in Hebrew or Aramaic or anything like that, because I wanted to find a way to chant in a kind of a Christian container, just as I chant Hindu chants in Sanskrit in the sort of Hindu container. I won't go into the reasons why, but it was really important to me. And I was like, I wish that I could find some chants that have more of a Christian feel to them, or heritage or lineage, just to add them to my practice. And I did find one chant that I chanted a little bit, but it was very complicated to pronounce. I had no idea what it meant. And I actually closed my eyes and put my hands together and said, dear God, dear Goddess, please help me to find my way towards something like Aramaic chanting or Hebrew chanting, or something with a Christian lineage if it exists, that's not Gregorian chants. You know, let me meet someone, let me find something on the internet. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that was that. And literally about 10 days later, I go to this weekend course that's been set up by Hay House, and a last minute invitation. Is that right, Ana?
Yes,
A last minute invitation has gone out to Ana Otero, who chants in Aramaic. And so we're all introducing ourselves, and Anna goes, "Hi, I'm from Spain, and I've just come at the last minute, and I chant in Aramaic." And I'm like, "Oh my God." Now, I'm not saying you were there just for my, you know, pleasure and delight, but I am saying maybe I was there because I almost didn't want to go because lots of reasons why the weekend was a bit awkward for me. Maybe I was there to meet you as opposed to you being there to meet me. So that is the story of how I met Ana Otero. So welcome to the podcast, Anna.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. I love being here with you.
Thank you. So I want to dive right in. Anna works a lot with Christ consciousness and Mary Magdalene, which is very interesting to me because I feel like the Christ consciousness and Mary Magdalene consciousness are both really, really rising. So, can you tell me, Anna, you used to be a dance teacher, you taught in schools, worked with children with special needs. What was the turning point that in your life that led you to connect with Mary Magdalene energy? I'm guessing first personally and then professionally. Let us know that.
Well, I actually had an appearance of Mary Magdalene, and it surprised me because I was raised Catholic, even though I was very, very spiritual and loved the lineages from India and the Hebrew lineages, and I loved Sufism, and I didn't expect it. And I had had different visitations when I was a child and growing up in my teen years, and to experience that, and when I asked her name and she said Maria Magdalita, I was a bit confused at first, right? Because I had been taught, she was one of the disciples of Yeshua, a great teacher as well, who had been purified of her sins, but I never really connected to her. I was more connected to Mother Mary. And when I received that visitation, when I had that visitation, I knew it was real. I could feel it in my body. And she actually gave me a word. And that word that she gave me, I say it every day. It's ahava, which means love in Hebrew and in Aramaic. And because she gave me these words that I didn't know, and that was just one visitation, I knew that I was actually receiving a divine presence. And that was the first of many, and my life shifted. I was living in the Middle East, I was teaching dance movement therapy, and I left everything and I came back to Europe. And I didn't know what I was going to do because I asked her, "What am I going to do with everything that you are giving me? Because I know nothing about you." And she said, "Just trust and start with your intuition." And so I started the teachings or the information that I received from her, I started fusing it with my own wisdom that I had acquired through movement, through breath work, through chanting. And that's how it all began. But of course, that was in 2011. And so many years have passed, and that has turned into something, a whole path, a whole consciousness, and a whole way of life.
Amazing. So let's get one thing straight here. Mary Magdalene was not a prostitute, correct?
No, no, she wasn't. Yeah. And actually, it's not that the church said that she was a prostitute. Just different remarks were made, and we were the ones, humans were the ones that received her as a dirty woman who was purified by Yeshua. And so I was never raised thinking that she was a prostitute in my Catholic family, just that she was cleansed of her sins. But in different parts of the world and different religions, she was seen as a prostitute. But no, she was not a prostitute. She was a high holy teacher.
Yeah, I was certainly taught that she was a prostitute. And I think it was not necessarily something that was said in church, but it was something that was definitely kind of the received wisdom about Mary Magdalene. So when you say, for one thing, let's just clarify, when Anna says Yeshua, that's what we would say Jesus normally. Yeah. When you say she was cleansed of her sins, was she cleansed of her sins the way any of us might be cleansed of our sins? It's not because she was a dirty woman. She was just a normal human being with sins like all of us. Is that correct?
Well, she was cleansed from the seven demons, right? And if you read the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, she goes deep into these seven demons. But these demons are actually distortions of our own self. We can even align them with the chakras and see the shadow aspect of the chakras. And Yeshua initiated her in this purification. And it's probably something that Yeshua did to many people, not just Mary Magdalene, because he does, other people or women are mentioned as well in sacred scripture. And I just wanted to say something about the prostitution, how, some of us were taught that she was a prostitute. It was just really all about the power that she held, right? The power that she held, and that power, and her actually receiving the seed of light of Yeshua and his teachings, it was seen as something a little bit dangerous for a woman, right? A woman who can, because anything that is feminine expands, right? You know this in astrology, right? The energy of the feminine field just goes viral, as they say. And it was just a fear of her power, a fear of her knowing, and a different way of expressing the teachings of the Christ.
Okay, and I just want to circle back to those 7 demons, because I really want to make the point that she wasn't an evil woman. I mean, that doesn't sound good to have 7 demons. Does everybody have 7 demons?
Let me talk about that. So the 7 demons are also known as 7 powers. Why are they called demons? Because Yeshua called negativity a demon. In Aramaic, I've read all the Gospels in Aramaic, and anything that is a negativity within us, he called a demon. For example, if I have a subconscious pattern of fear, right, that pushes people away from my life, right, because I'm fear of being intimate, he would call that a demon, which just meant negativity. And so really the cleansing of the demons was actually an alignment with the person's light. Actually, even Yeshua called demons Satana at times, which we later call Satan, but Satana again was negativity. So we can reword the demons and call them powers, right? Because once we, for example, one of these is ignorance, and ignorance is the lack of ability to see horizontal. We only want to see what we know. We don't want to open up our vision. This is what I know, and this is what I'm doing, and I'm not doing anything else. I don't accept you because you're different from me. That's ignorance, right? And so when we are cleansed of this, for example, it becomes a power. And why? Because we are able to see everything with the eyes of a child, right? Accepting everything as a possibility. And so these demons are the negativity that we all have, and that we are all here to cleanse and align with our own light.
Amazing. Okay. So, can you tell me, please, Anna, how did chanting come into your life?
Well, I was in the path of yoga already, like you, Yasmin. I had started yoga at the age of 11. I had been to India, and living in the Middle East, I traveled a lot, and chanting was a really important part of my practice. And I had studied Aramaic briefly at university, and then life got in the way, right? Love, children, right? And then when I was living in the Middle East and I was living in Cairo, I met one of my teachers, Barbakan, and he called himself an Essene, an Egyptian Essene. And the first time I went, it was really interesting because we would meet in front of the pyramids. He didn't speak English, really. He just spoke Arabic and Hebrew and some of the in Aramaic. And we would meet in front of the pyramids, and I would just listen. I really didn't understand totally in that moment when I started with him. And we started to chant the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic. And I had remembered studying that at university, but he chanted it differently. Because in the Middle East, the way people chant, a little bit like India, is hypnotic, right? It's very ecstatic. It's not like the Gregorian chant, like you said, which is beautiful, but it was very hypnotic. And he was drumming, and I felt the energy in my body. I mean, I even do it with the drum too, right?
Well, you know, I'm going to ask you to chant the Lord's Prayer in Aramaic for us in a minute, don't you, Anna?
Of course. And that first encounter, I fainted. I actually fainted. It felt like one time when I was 14, I went to a healing session with my mother with these people who did, spoke in tongues. And I remember I fainted because the energy was so strong. It felt something like that. And then it didn't last a long time. I quickly woke up and I said, this is powerful. This is something I need to do. And then through practice and through studying, I later studied Aramaic in the biblical in University of Israel. Um, Through the chanting of the Aramaic, I started to realize that I love all chanting. I love chanting in Sanskrit, Gurmukhi, everything, all of it, Hebrew, Aramaic, everything. But this Aramaic, it took me into a different level. Whereas when I chanted, I was no longer worried about the expectation of the chant. A lot of times, we said, chant this mantra for this, chant this mantra for that. I felt like that expectation had disappeared and I had become the mantra. And I could really feel that energy. For example, when you chant the Lord's Prayer, or just chant the first word of the Lord's Prayer, which is Avun, which means the container that holds the Divine Mother Father, right? It's a different way of seeing God, right? It's a different way. So it is a container. I'm a container. I'm a vessel. And so I felt that I was that. When I chant Inanna, I am, I actually felt that I was the I am. And so that I knew that it was doing something to my system. I even felt a difference in my hair, in my face, in my skin. It was so powerful. And then when I researched a little bit more about the origin of Semitic languages as light languages, I realized that it was a language of light. And by even scanning the Aramaic, or even the biblical Hebrew, which is called Royal Aramaic, by the way, by even scanning it, I could feel the activations. And I'm a very grounded person. So I'm saying this through a grounded energy. And it just shifted. I also noticed my voice change. And that's when I started recording music. I never thought that I would record music in my life and chant and sing. But I noticed that it did something to my voice, where my voice, I started channeling these melodies, channeling these rhythms, and I started to create music. And I would go to the studio with these amazing musicians and I would say, hear what I'm singing, and then you create the notes and the musical sheet. And so I knew it was really connected to something that I needed in that moment. That's a high vibration of light, of unity, that would bring medicine and a sense of unity and calmness in my life, a sense of being grounded. Whereas a lot of times we chant and we feel that we're somewhere else. Even though you are somewhere else, it just grounds the energy in your body and there's more clarity, more mission, more purpose. I hope I answered, because sometimes I
Yeah,
go.
no, that's amazing. Yeah, thank you. So this week the astrology is actually very feminine. Okay, we have the full moon taking place in the sign of Aries, which is the first sign of the zodiac. So it's very much the start of a new lunar cycle, the next 12-month cycle. Plus we have Venus connecting with Jupiter and Saturn, which is quite unusual, and it's a really beautiful thing. So it's a very feminine thing. So I'm wondering, maybe instead of the Lord's Prayer, you want to chant something for Mary Magdalene. I don't know. But I guess the question is, would you be willing to do a little chant for us, since you have your drum there, just to introduce people? It just doesn't have to be long, just something really simple so people start to hear the sounds.
Of course. Actually, I could do it with my Shruti box, because that way we can do it slower, right? And if you want to participate, I'm just going to put the right microphone on. Give me a second. The original sound for musicians. Let me just see if this works. Can you hear this?
Yep.
So what we're going to chant is Mariam Kadisha. Okay, so I want to explain it a little bit, because this is something, or maybe we can do something different that I think you will like even more for this week. Beshem Mariam. Beshem Mariam. And that actually means in the infinite vibration of Mariam.
And Mariam being?
Yeah, Mariam is Mary Magdalene. And Mariam also means the container that holds the infinite light. And so we become the container that holds the infinite light. And Beshem is a beautiful word, because it actually means birthing the light vibration, because the ba in Aramaic means it's the action of birthing. So actually we're birthing the light of Mary Magdalene within us. Do you like that one? Yeah.
I love it.
So why don't we, so that all of you can do it with me, which I think it's important, we can put our hands in our heart. And just so you can know how to pronounce it, it's Beshem Mariam. Beshem Mariam. Beshem Mariam. Beshem Mariam, 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 Beshem Mariam. Inhale. Hold the breath. And exhale the light of Mariam. And just inhale, exhale when you're ready. You can open your eyes. How was that?
Yeah, that was really beautiful. Really beautiful. I have so many questions. Mary Magdalene and Jesus, were they a couple?
Well, I want to be very mindful and respectful towards everyone because I think that's important. And I believe they were a couple. Through my experience and through my deep study, I've studied the text, the Gnostic text, the canonical, but I also respect those who believe that they weren't a couple, right? Because on a high energetic level, their true communion is in the light. That is their true communion, that they represent the divine union template, that they represent the restoration of the unity within us. And so, you know, my mother is very, very Catholic, and she doesn't believe that they were a couple, but she also does believe, she does know that they are something in the higher realm. And so whether you believe that the marriage was on earth or in the heavens, right, in the light, it's perfect. Because actually the work that they are doing so powerfully right now is their unity above us, but that unity is also anchored through our bodies in the earth through Mary Magdalene. And so I do feel that they were a couple, a divine couple. And if you read the Gospel of Philip, there is a lot in there that talks about the bridal chamber as an initiation for us to go through, but also there are a few lines that talk about this. And she was the one who received his ministry, his teachings, and she was asked or given the transmission to later share the teachings, but the true mystery teachings were cut off, right? Because she was a prostitute. So, yeah.
Yes, and I believe I've read that actually Jesus being a Chaldean priest would have been, or a Sini priest would have been expected to be married.
Well, in that time, in that historical moment, he was a rabbi. We need to understand that first. He was a rabbi. He did preach in the synagogues. And he taught from a very young age, from the age of 12, right? He was really evolved. And to be married was a sign of blessings from God, from Allah. That's the word that Yeshua used for God. And even to have children was seen as someone who had been blessed with abundance in their life. So they were expected to be married. You could not be a rabbi. You could not preach without being married.
So we rest our case.
Definitely.
And did they have a child?
Well, actually, yes. Sara Tamar, some people believe there were two children, a female and a male. Within my experience, it's Sara Tamar, which later is seen as maybe an archetype. Well, the archetype of her is seen as Sara Lacali in Saint-Marie de la Mer in France. And actually, Sara Tamar appeared to me before the visitation of Mary Magdalene, but I didn't know who she was. It was before the birth of my daughter and before I even met the father. She appeared to me. I was actually teaching dance movement therapy to autistic children. I was very tired. I sat, I let them play with the assistant, right? And all of a sudden she appeared. I had one little girl next to me and she said, Sarai, Sara Tamar. And I said, who are you? And she said, I am the Christed child. And I had no idea. And then when the vision left, I thought it was just a vision. I was hallucinating. The little girl that was next to me asked me, who was that light, that child, because she looked young, who was speaking to you? And so I wasn't the only one who saw it. And later, I understood, and she gave me a vision of my daughter, actually, of my daughter, that she was going to come in through this lineage. She gave me all of the information. And then later, when I had the visitation of Mary Magdalene, remember, I knew nothing. I didn't know they were a couple. I didn't read the Da Vinci codes. I had no idea, right? And I connected and I said, wow, now I get it, right? And so the Sara Tamar is the Christ the child. And there's even a painting in this monastery in Catalunya, in the Catalan area of Spain. It's El Monasterio Santa Creus, the Santa Creus Monastery. And he's on the cross, Yeshua's on the cross, and Mary Magdalene appears in red, and she's pregnant. She's actually pregnant in the painting. And she even has the little the tying here that represented the pregnant woman. I forgot the word. And you can see that she's pregnant in the image. And this is a very, very powerful painting. And so, yes, Sara Tamar.
And the Black Madonna statues in churches all over Europe. Actually, there's one in England as well. I don't know if there's any in America. Are they Mary Magdalene?
Well, the Black Madonna is very, very interesting because her archetype, her symbolism, and her embodiment goes way back to Kabbalah, actually. Before Kabbalah, that word is very modern. It was birthed in the 12th, 13th century. And for people who've never heard of this word, it is the mystical aspect of Judaism, but it actually isn't because it was before Judaism. These are the codes of creation, really. And the Ima this name Ima is the Black cosmic mother. She's infinity, right? And she lives in the realm of the cosmic womb. And so the Black Madonnas were in essence an earthly representation of that because she represents infinity in the light that is birthed through infinity. We have that infinite potential. And then the Black Madonna was then associated with Mother Mary, right? Because then she came in and she became goddess of the earth and of the heavens. But what is interesting is when all of the Cathars, the Cathars who venerated Mary Magdalene, and even other lineages in Egypt, her gospel was found in Egypt. So imagine how many followers she had in Egypt. And they were Christian, right? Well, they weren't called Christian in that time. Later, we call them Christian. They later associated Mary Magdalene with the Black Madonna because it was a way of venerating her without anyone knowing. And so there is this connection of the Black Madonna with Mary Magdalene. For example, most Black Madonnas begin with Our Lady of, right? And so when you see that, you're connecting with the Black Madonna. Our Lady of Guadalupe, total connection with Mary Magdalene in so many ways. Our Lady of Montserrat here in Catalunya, total connection. And there are so many different Black Madonnas. And many of the Cathars actually, when they escaped the Inquisition in France, the Albigensian Crusade, they passed the Pyrenees and went to the Catalan country where the Montserrat was, and they actually united with the Spanish Kabbalists. And where the Spanish Kabbalists saw the Black Madonna Montserrat as Shekhinah, they saw her as Mary Magdalene. And so there is this connection. When I am on a journey of initiation or pilgrimage to the Black Madonna, I really feel the Magdalene present. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, no, you totally did. I definitely feel the Magdalene presence as well. And I suppose what I'm thinking as well is I'm 99% sure that the one in Saint Marie de la Mer, for example, which you mentioned, which I saw, I'm pretty sure that is mother and child, isn't it?
Yeah,
Which I suppose then is supposed to be Mary Magdalene and Sarah.
totally. Totally. Even sometimes when I go to the chalice, well, not sometimes, always, when I go to the chalice well in Glastonbury and I see the beautiful goddess, for me, it's Mary Magdalene and Sarah. I really feel and I pray when I go. I know she is Divine Mother in all representations, but when I'm there, I feel Mary Magdalene. I feel Sarah Tamar. So definitely for me, the Black Madonna and Sarah Lakali, all of that energy is mother and child. Definitely.
Yeah. So you're a Hay House author like me, and I believe you've got a couple of books out about Mary already.
Yes, I published the other books. I'm just new in the Hay House. I'm very, very happy, and I'm publishing a beautiful book with them on Mary Magdalene, the most powerful one. And I have two other books that I published on my own of Mary Magdalene, which is Conversations with Mary Magdalene and Mary Magdalene and the Path of Allah Hashalah. The second book is like a manual on how to pray, right? The different ways of prayer. And the first one has to do a lot with my first encounters with Mary Magdalene and all of the information I received. And the new book coming out that I'm writing now is really powerful, connecting to her lineage as a Kadisha. A Kadisha is high holy woman or priestess, as co-teacher and partner of Yeshua, and what this means not just for us now in her ministry and her consciousness, but also in her time when she was in Israel, when she was in Jerusalem, right? We have this tendency to see her ministry start in France or in Europe, which it did alone when she was alone, but she also had so many powerful teachings in her time in her homeland that I think is really, really important to talk about, because that energy that she chose to reincarnate in is important for us as well. Right.
Amazing. Right. Okay. So, Anna, where do people find you and where do they find your two self published books? And when's your Hay House one coming out?
Well, you can find me on anaotero.com. That is my website. I'm on YouTube.
So,
Yeah.
ANA, not ANNA.
ANA. I'm also on YouTube and on Instagram. It's I think it's Ana Otero Desert Rose. I think because our mystery school is called Desert Rose. Desert Rose being the rose of Sharon, which is the anointing oil of Yeshua, right? So it's all very symbolic. And in the beginning of 2027 is the new book, and I'm really excited. I'm writing it now, and so I'm in the process of. I'm in awe, right? I'm just all the research and the writing and the prayers. And so it's a very exciting moment right now.
And for people who can't wait for 2027, are your first two books available on Amazon or
Amazon.
bookshops or?
Amazon. You can go to Amazon and available, it doesn't matter where you live, you can find them on Amazon.
Cool. And it's ANAOTERO for anyone. And we'll put all the links in the show notes.
I have another one too. I forgot about this one. Mary Magdalene and the Teachings of the Desert Rose. That's another one. And that one,
They're all on Amazon, right?
yes, that one is interesting because I have some Aramaic on that, some Aramaic mantras in that one.
Amazing. So, just a couple of things. One is when we met at the weekend, I took away one mantra, which was just Mariam. And I presume I can do that to any tune that I like.
Course. And actually, I always encourage people to start with a mantra in Aramaic that is, I don't want to even use the word simple. It's maybe simple because it's one word, but it's not simple, right? When the energy that you chant, the energy you receive when you chant Mariam is quite powerful. You can start with Mariam and you can use your own rhythm, your own harmony, because the voice is a strong connection with Aramaic, because in the teachings of Aramaic, everything is created by the word and sound. And so you putting in your own voice and your own rhythm is actually part of the initiation.
And you said if people would like to do one to Jesus or Yeshua, Inanna. Nothing to do with the goddess Inanna.
No, no, and it's actually spelled Eenana. Inanna means I am, which actually I am, I am. And this is a word that Yeshua repeated always as I, because he was showing people how to unite the lower soul, the incarnated soul, with the higher soul, which is nafsha and neshama in Aramaic. And so Inanna actually, if you're wanting to bring the different parts of yourself together, if you want to manifest your mission, your purpose, it just brings in more of your truth. And since Yeshua taught it so much, when we chant it, we're connecting with Yeshua, Inanna, and very simple.
And could we just as simply chant Yeshua,
Yes,
just like we're chanting Mariam?
definitely. You can chant Yeshua, and actually the activations, the Prince of Peace. That's what, with the Aramaic Hebrew letters in his name are very, very powerful, right? You can just chant Yeshua, or you can, you can chant Yeshua of the light, Yeshua de Nuchera, but that's a bit more difficult, right? But you can chant Yeshua, definitely.
Amazing. All right. Well, I'm going to leave it there. If Mary Magdalene had one message that you think is trying to come through, could you encapsulate that message for us?
Yes, that we are the vessels in this moment, in this messianic age, also called the age of Aquarius. In the mystery traditions called the messianic age, we are the vessels that are here to embody her light. And her light is the awakening of the full potential of what we are here to bring. And so her presence is awakening this in all of us. And if we are willing to open up to receive her light, we can actually manifest not just our truth and our love and our healing, but the full potential of our soul contract, of our soul covenant, of our purpose, our mission, because she is a soul covenant teacher, a mission-based teacher.
Amazing. Okay. Well, Ana, thank you so much. I will definitely have you back on in a few months when I have learned more and I can ask you more questions. But thank you, Ana Otero. Your website again?
AnaOtero.com.
Perfect. Thank you, Ana. Lots of love and thanks for the beautiful
Bye-bye.
chanting.
Thank you. Thank you.